Our report today is all about using and evaluating instructional materials. My name is Michelle Silang and I will be discussing about the selection of materials. And Ma'am Domingo, she will be discussing about the proper use of materials. Instructional materials. Instructional materials, these are the devices that assist the facilitator in the teaching process. Not self-supporting, they are supplementary training devices. So the instructional materials, these are the materials that it can help the teachers to achieve the goal objectives of her lesson. So, for us to be able to select what is the right and suited instructional materials, there are guided questions that needs to be followed. In selection for the right materials, there are guided questions that needs to be followed. The number one is, does the material give a true picture of ideas they present? To avoid misconceptions, it is always good to ask when the materials was produced. So let's say, for example, you are the teacher right now, and then the reference book that you were been using is that the book that you were in the elementary. So the question there is that, is the book is still valid? So in selection for the right materials, it should be timely and relevant. Question is, does the material contribute meaningful content to the topic under study? Does the material help you to achieve instructional objective? So let's say, for example, your objective is the student must be able to know how to use the microscope. So as a teacher, you should assist and teach your student how to use that microscope. Question is the material aligned the curriculum standard and competencies? Yes, it must be aligned. For example, your topic is all about use and maintain farm equipments. So as a teacher, you should provide a concrete examples. Question is the material culture grade sensitive? Yes. In a classroom settings, there are some students that it came from the different cultures. So as a teacher, you should choose the right instructional materials that you're going to use. Next guided question is, does the material promote self-study? Question is the materials appropriate for the age, intelligence, and experience of the learners? Yes. Let's say, for example, you handle the grade 6 students. So the instructional materials that you're going to use must be fit for your grade 6 students, not for those lower grades. Next guided question is the physical condition of the material satisfactory? Yes. Let's say, for example, you're using the PowerPoint presentation as your instructional materials. So as a teacher, you should check the font, the background, if it is visible for your students. So the next question is there a teacher's guide provide a briefing for effective use? The chance that the instructional material will be used to the maximum and optimum increase of the teacher's guide. So it means that the use of the instructional materials must be maximized by the teachers. Guided question is, can the material in question help make better thinkers and develop their critical faculties? With exposure to mass media, it is highly important that we maintain and strengthen our rational powers. And it's also important in choosing your instructional materials to make sure that the students can develop their critical thinking. The next guided question is, does the use of material make learners collaborate with one another? Yes, because it can make the students to interact with one another if that is your objectives. Last one is the material worth time, expense, and effort involved? Yes. For example, you're using the field trip as your instructional materials. It will cost a lot of money and effort, but at the same time, it is worth it because the students can learn from it and they enjoy.
Since you already know what is an instructional media, let us proceed to the proper use of materials. So, to ensure effective use of instructional materials, Hayden Smith and Thomas Nigel, 1972, book author of instructional media, advised us to abide by the acronym PPPF. So, PPPF means, number 1 is to prepare yourself, prepare your student, present your materials, and follow up. Number 1 is prepare yourself. So, as a teacher, we should already know our learning objectives or what we expect from the class after the session, or why we have selected such particular instructional materials. So say for example, majority of my students are visual learners. So as a facilitator of learning or a teacher, I must present a variety of instructional materials that will suit to the learner preferences like images, graphic organizer, or engaging them in watching videos and delivering my lessons. Number two is prepare your student. So self-class expectation and learning goals is to motivate your student and keep them interested and engaged. So based on my experience, since we are in 21st century, I get bored and has no interest in participating in the class if my teacher doesn't provide any captivating instructional materials. And in today's generation, the intervention of technology was already applied. I prepare and I could easily learn from it. Number three is to present your materials. So under the best possible condition of using and presenting media and materials, this also requires rehearsal and carefully planned performance. So say for example, if you are planning to require your student in making a movie review to test their comprehension through film viewing, you will prepare the materials needed like laptop and projector. You must also practice on how to use it so that when you arrive in the class, you are no longer experiencing any difficulties in using it. And because if you don't know how to manage or use it in without any planning, the time will be wasted. So the last steps is follow up. So it is another term for evaluating and it is happened right after the session. So this time we're going to evaluate if your learning objective was successfully attained or not. And of course, if your choosing instructional materials was effectively helped in reaching or attaining your learning outcomes. And if not, this is the time for you to reassess and think another strategy or what instructional materials will, will be suited to the learner preferences.